Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV. You know, I don't normally address email on Mondays, but I received one over the weekend that I couldn't stop thinking about. It was from a guy named Kevin. He was incredibly angry and dismayed over the incompetence, lawlessness, and general anti-Americanism on open display from Joe Biden and nearly the entirety of his political party. The stanza that caught my eye was when he wrote, quote, "As a lifelong American, I, for the first time, find myself ashamed of my country," end quote. I wrote him back and I tried to assure him that there's nothing wrong with the United States. Our Constitution, Judeo-Christian ethic, and free enterprise economic system have made us the envy of the world for 2 centuries. I reminded him that our country isn't failing us. Biden and his party are failing our country. That's the subject of tonight's preamble. Much of the focus has rightly been centered on Biden the boob and the multiple crises he has created at home and abroad. And we'll get to some of the most recent developments that show that Biden is failing the United States in just a minute. But I want to start with a bit of a focus on his empty-headed VP, Kamala Harris, the border czar. The southern border remains a mess. China virus cases are off the charts as thousands of infected illegal aliens are being brought into the United States on a weekly basis. Her incompetence is destroying Americans' health by creating a public health crisis. The rampant crime and sheer numbers of illegal aliens are destroying Latino communities in South Texas as we speak. Harris is ignoring the border to go play in Asia, while Biden was busy trying to create a bigger humiliation for America than Vietnam. Harris was actually there in Vietnam. Here we see the VP of the United States appearing to pay homage to the communist Vietnamese leader Ho Chi Minh. Immediate comparisons started flowing around the United States, comparing Biden's airhead VP and another airhead, Jane Fonda. Photos of Fonda posing with Vietnamese enemies of American freedom became iconic, not only for the left-wing actress, but for the stunning number of luminaries her antics would inspire in modern-day Hollywood. But this wasn't even the most embarrassing part of Harris's trip. Here we see Harris laying flowers at the site where John McCain was shot down in Vietnam. What the know-nothing millennials who set Kamala's schedule didn't know is that the site that she's laying those flowers at, it's a celebration of those who shot McCain's plane out of the sky and then captured him, delivering him to the VC for his long stay and torture at the Hanoi Hilton. The stunning ignorance of Kamala Harris and her team was noted by Yawen Zhu, a journalist based in Beijing. She tweeted, "Does Harris know this monument honors the people who shot down John McCain's plane? Vietnamese people view him as a war criminal." So in essence, Harris was paying tribute to those who shot down John McCain's plane. It'd be like Harris laying a wreath at Pearl Harbor honoring the brave Japanese pilots who sunk the USS Arizona. Great photo op there, Team Biden. Sadly, that's all this administration is good for. Symbolism over substance. And hell, they can't even do that right. Biden was trying to create a photo op on September the 11th with his imbecilic withdrawal from Afghanistan. And as the whole thing has been regarded as the biggest foreign policy defeat for the United States in the modern era, predictably, idiots in the press are trying to run interference for Joe Biden. Apparently, NBC's military writer, Sebastian Roblin, attempted to protect Biden's credibility by laughingly trying to blame President Trump for Biden's insane withdrawal. Just one of many key differences between Trump's plan and Biden's plan. Trump's withdrawal would have occurred in May, not in August. August is the top of the so-called fighting season, where weather and economics work to the Taliban's favor. But the insanity award has got to go to CBS News, which tried to shield Biden the boob from blame by saying it was climate change, not Biden, that is responsible for strengthening the Taliban. A note to CBS News. It wasn't your god of climate change that bestowed $85 billion in military hardware and weapons to the Taliban. The good news is every headline like those just bleeds credibility from those so-called news outlets. The folks just aren't buying the Democrats' excuses, their indifference, this silence. They're not buying it anymore. Most Americans are demanding that left-wingers be held accountable. Finally, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller took to social media to demand that all of the politicians masquerading as generals cop to what they did to usher in the worst foreign policy defeat for the United States in the modern era.
We have a Secretary of Defense that testified to Congress in May that the Afghan National Security Force could withstand the Taliban advance. We have chairmen of Joint Chief, who the Commandant is a member of that, who's supposed to advise on military policy. We have a Marine combatant commander. All of these people are supposed to advise, and I'm not saying we've got to be in Afghanistan forever, but I am saying, did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, the strategic air base, before we evacuate everyone? Did anyone do that? And when you didn't think to do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up?
Lieutenant Colonel Scheller was relieved of his command. I'll get more into that in a minute. But the colonel wasn't done. Knowing he was risking everything, his 17-year career, his family's security, his pension, his benefits, Scheller laid down a gauntlet.
Potentially all those people did die in vain if we don't have senior leaders that own up and raise their hand and say, we did not do this well in the end. Without that, we just keep repeating the same mistakes. This amalgamation of the economic / corporate / political / higher military ranks are not holding up their end of the bargain. I want to say this very strongly. I have been fighting for 17 years. I am willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability.
As of this weekend, Colonel Scheller resigned his commission, and the United States of America lost a patriot in the Marine Corps. Now, many of you service members out there are probably saying, well, that young man broke the chain of command and deserved to be relieved of his post. And in old America, I'd probably agree with you. But I offer this as evidence that things are different now. I'd like to remind all of you of Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. This officer also broke the chain of command to accuse former President Trump of wrongdoing on a call with the newly elected president of Ukraine. But because Vindman was attacking a Republican president, he was protected. He was praised and deified by the military brass, the media, and the Socialist Democrat Party. The reason why Colonel Scheller was immediately targeted is because he demanded accountability of an occupier of the Oval Office who has blood on his hands. And Scheller demanded accountability from the yes-men generals who enabled Joe Biden's idiocy. It's not your imagination. The uneasy feeling you have in the pit of your stomach is real. The time we are living in isn't like any other time of trial in America's past. Yes, we have had dangerous foes that rival China, Russia, Iran, and the Taliban. Yes, we have confronted pandemics. Yes, we have endured economic hardships. But we have never had our own government under the control of one political party committed to doing our enemies' work for them. We have never had a political party that is as committed to our nation's destruction as our enemies are committed to its destruction. That political party runs the Congress and now controls the White House. Bill Maher, the traditional liberal comedian, addressed those who are now driving the Socialist Democrat Party's agenda, the nut jobs, who are eager to turn the United States into a communist hellhole by decrying our society as racist or evil. Maher said, there's a reason Afghan mothers are handing their babies to us. It's because the United States is not evil. Our freedoms are not evil. A government of, by, and for the people, not evil. But left-wing extremists who want to take all of that away, they are evil. And they are well represented in the White House and in the Congress.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.